Welcome to the Thriver Lifestyle Podcast. I'm your host, Marian Bacol, embodied leadership coach, holistic wellness consultant, and TEDx speaker. I'm on a mission to empower individuals and organizations to thrive from the inside out. Ting Ting, I am so happy to welcome you on the podcast for season 1. Goddess Rebirth. You really came to mind because a lot of what I see on social media is really just like beautiful goddess at play, like work, like just how you move your movements, which we'll totally get into. For those who are in the audience who are listening or watching this on YouTube, be like, what is she talking about? Uh, I will let you explain. So welcome to the podcast, to the Thriver Lifestyle Podcast. And, I'll let you take it away to really share with us, all about you. What is it that you do? What is the Guanjing method? And I know it's a loaded question, but take it away.
So much. Thank you so much for having me and having this conversation with me. The Guanjing method. Yeah, this is the essence of who I am and what I'm here to teach, and how I would say I would move through the world, and how I choose to transform my emotions, life challenges, traumas into that renewed vitality, into fueling the fire of my soul. And so throughout my entire life, dance has always played some part in the background, even when I was a little kid, even if it wasn't so much the movement of chi energy intentionally, it was dancing with joy, dancing to celebrate, dancing to have fun, going to the clubs in Philadelphia with my girlfriends and dancing the night away. It was just such the tension that we feel in our body, and fusing it with movement, intentional breath to circulate and direct those energies, because energy can neither be transformed nor destroyed, right? Transforming them into that renewed life force energy to feel more alive, that sense of vitality, and that joy for life. And so that's what the Guanjing method is.
I love it. And I love seeing it because it is like this beautiful, just fluid movement. But I'd love to like take it a step back, because it's not like you wake up one day and you're like, I want to, like this is exactly what it is. Like I kind of want to peel back to the story of how you got to developing this method and how you got here.
Yeah, it's quite a journey to get to where I was. And I had come from a yogic background. So backtracking all the way back to my early 20s, I had always been in love with art. I was always a painter. I always loved using my body to create sculptures. And that transformed into me entering into fashion design and graduating with a bachelor's of science in fashion design. And that led me to New York City, which spiraled me down into really Great Depression. Basically, I was very unhappy. I didn't enjoy being in an office, didn't enjoy being in a box. I didn't enjoy having to work the 9 to 5. I really, really hated it. And I felt like I was a slave. And the only moments of freedom I felt was from just that, oh my God, it's 5 o'clock. Let's get out of here in the weekend. And it was funny because when I was living in New York, I felt like I was self-sabotaging. I would always like take all my vacation days all at once just to like escape. And then I was wondering, wow, I'm not really good at doing this. Like, am I just not good at being successful? And am I a kind of a loser that I just want to be free and be outside in nature and not be in an office in the middle of Manhattan? And that was when my first depression came. And it was so bad that I had deep cysts on my cheeks, which now that I studied a lot of Chinese medicine, that transforms into a lot of grief. And that's what I would literally think about every day. Like, what is the point of life? Like, we're all gonna die. I had all these dark thoughts of like, is this it? You just work this, and then you have to like make all this money to try to afford this ridiculous rent of this tiny hole in the wall in Manhattan, and then do it all over again, and then just like binge drink on the weekends. Like, it just didn't make sense. And so that led me to quitting my job and traveling down south, where I found freedom through working at restaurants. I actually loved it. I ended up working at this tiny, fun taco margarita spot on the beach in North Carolina. And I loved it. I was like, well, I can work when I want. I can take off when I want. I can, pick my schedule. I only work 4 hours out of the day at night, and I have the whole day to do whatever I want. And so I realized through trial and error that all I really wanted was freedom.
Mhm.
And in the restaurant industry, that's how I found time freedom.
Mhm.
But I wasn't still yet free in how I felt like I could share with the world and what my true gifts were, which they were still developing, I didn't know, and so that led me to the route of yoga, and I went deep into yoga. I would go to class every day, which led me to Bali, and I got my yoga teacher certification there. And when I came back, I was like, "Oh, I don't know. Do I really wanna continue working at a restaurant?" I had been quite a nomad going from North Carolina to Colorado to Bali, back to the US, to Portland, Oregon. And my Bali school messaged me and said, "Hey, do you want to be one of our trainers for the yoga teacher training?" And I was like, "Yes, this is exactly what I wanna do." Like, it's soulfully fulfilling. I'm getting paid. I'm in a tropical place where I love. And so that was truly inspirational and amazing. And I really learned some very, very deep core values in how to be a leader and how to hold space and the type of education and the way to speak to others in that training. So it was really amazing. However, I was still working for someone else, and that had led me to feeling like kind of a little bit resentful, a little bit like, oh, again, I feel like a slave.
Yeah, like a trapped feeling.
Yes, this trapped feeling. And that's when I decided to break free and start hosting my own meditation retreats. And thank goodness that was a success. Long story short, did that for a while, decided to move to Los Angeles because I had met my ex partner in Bali and I fell in love. And he's like, "Come with me to Los Angeles." And I was like, I have never thought to move there, but why not? So when
Mhm.
I came to LA, I thought, oh, I can just, transition my work and bring clients here, and that fell flat on its face. I had nobody coming in, no students. I couldn't even get a job teaching some classes at any of the yoga places, even restaurants. I mean, when you go to LA, everything's so expensive. So my bank account was going just down, 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 down. And I couldn't even get a job as a waitress. And that led me into my second deep depression where I was like, I felt, wow, there's so many yoga people here. There's so many leaders and coaches and wellness facilitators. It made me feel like, well, what's the point of me being alive? Like why I'm not worthy? Like I don't matter because there's already so many other people doing what I do. And I had a lot of suicidal thoughts and I didn't have anything to do because I didn't have a job. No one was hiring me. I was going on I was desperate. I was going on Craigslist and like those weird like help wanted sections. And I was like, nothing.
Mhm.
There's nothing. But that did afford me all this time to just be by myself. And thank goodness I was in Topanga Canyon. I still am in the middle of the woods, surrounded by the oak trees. And so all this pressure was just piling on me, like, just, like, condensing and condensing, and I didn't wanna practice yoga, I didn't wanna meditate, and all of a sudden, this movement came out of me that was just, like, a way of just moving that heaviness, and I went into this space of, like, ethereal bliss when I did it, and when I was finished, I felt a lot more trust in the universe, I felt a lot more joy. And so I started practicing at the park and in public places, at the beach. And it's funny what the universe does, right? It always is like, hello, this is it, this is it. So when
Mhm.
I was at the beach, and every single time I practiced in a public place, I opened my eyes after, and I had like 5 to 6 people from all ages staring at me, going, "That's so cool. What is that? Is that Qigong? Is that Tai Chi? Is this yoga? Is this just like dance? Like, what is this? I want to learn. Can you teach it?" And
Mhm.
I was just laughing, like, I have no idea what I'm doing. Like, I'm just trying to like release some trauma here. Like this. And and so I thought, okay, after the fifth or sixth time, I was like, okay, universe, I hear you. You're clearly giving me a message, but how do you translate this into something that I know that I'm doing? And so what I ended up doing was just filming myself and realizing, oh, I do these movements all the time. What am I thinking when I'm feeling energy move out of my throat? Oh, what am I doing when I'm in this motion, oh, I'm just like circulating energy around my pelvis. And I realized I'm creating these forms. And so from there, that's when Guanjing was born.
That's so beautiful, and I'd love to, like, unpack even more because I just love to go deeper even before that. Because I know there's a lot of people who see kind of what you're doing, what I'm doing, and they're like, "Wow, like, how do I" it just seems so far, right? But, you know, you still remember, like, that time that you were in corporate. I remember being in corporate and feeling so trapped and also thinking, "Is this what I have to do for the next 30, 40 years?" Like, it felt like a death sentence. Like, I felt that trapped feeling, and I've always and as someone who's also gone through a lot of, like, childhood trauma, feeling trapped was the thing that, like I actually had this thing where I played with it, I would use it to, like, later on, I realized I was doing alchemy, like, I would use it as my fire fuel to, like, break free. I'm like, "Fuck you, you're not gonna trap me. I'm gonna go do something," even if it was, like, really outrageous. It was just, like, something that catapult me to something else. But yeah, like, what made you finally be like, "I just need to" because everyone dreams, right, of going to New York, of, being in the big city and, like, having we're taught that this is kind of like, this is it, you've reached the epitome of, like, what you're supposed to have, and, like, what made you be like, "No, this is" was there many points, or was there, like, a final just breaking point? Because for those listening who are there right now, who feel this, like, maybe this is your sign when you're watching this. This is literally this is your sign from the universe, you know? Yeah.
That's actually that question makes me laugh because there were certain points, like, when a car literally drove into me at a four-way stop and I was a pedestrian, and then she started cursing me out for being in her way, and, I'm trying to get on the L train, and it's so crowded for going into Brooklyn, into Manhattan, and this guy literally pushes me out of the way to jam himself into the train instead of me, and I'm just like, "Is this how society is supposed to be?" Because I don't think that this is right, And I also found, but I did want to be in New York. Like, my biggest thing when I was little was I want to be in a bustling city. I want to get out of my apartment and walk out and have like all the art shows to go see and all the people and all the places, and like
Mhm,
that did fuel a lot of my curiosity for just society and friendships and connection and experiences with art and music and dance, and
mhm.
cities are incredible for that, but there's something very deeply healing naturally about being in nature and being in the natural world, and I was so far removed from it.
Mhm,
I remember when I would call off on work in New York, and I'd take a bike ride all the way down to Coney Island, and I would just be like, "Oh my god, the ocean is so gorgeous. Wow," and realize I hadn't seen the ocean in forever, even if it was, like, washing up, like, dead rats and stuff. I'm like, "This is magical." Um, and then so when I decided to leave, I went to North Carolina, which is so lush. It's,
mhm.
South, it's humid. There's all this beautiful Spanish moss. All the streets are small and cobblestone, and everything's a lot slower. The ocean's gorgeous, fresh seafood. It was just like this breath of fresh air, of new life, of realizing the cities aren't always like, this isn't it, there's so many different realities we can choose to live in. So I think as we look back on who we want to become and look into our future, yeah, of course, the place that we live in has so much to do with and how it shapes who we
Mhm.
are and what qualities we imbue and the essence, right? And so for me, when I was in nature again, it was like this deep medicine of coming back to the natural state of being, which is a healthy, regulated nervous system,
Mhm.
like food, a slower pace, deeper connection with emotions and with thoughts, and being in harmony with ourselves.
Yeah, and I think, like, it's just really coming home to ourselves, like, being in nature, I mean, growing up in LA, I did see a lot of mountains, went to nature, ocean, then I moved to Miami, and I lived in the middle of the city. What I did love is that I was right by the water, so I'd always just go to the water, but being also in the middle of the city, I left Miami after 10 years last year and moved to Panama City, which is the Panhandle, Florida, and it's definitely like completely different, so much slower. But I like hear owls. We have like snakes and ducks, like nature here. It is really just super healing. And you did mention that like you had these like two waves of like depression and despair. And I'm not one to be like, whatever diagnosis people have with depression, that's like definitely, do that and like, you know, go to whatever experts or specialists. And also, I think that that's our inner compass telling us something.
Mm.
It's like our, but we just don't know how to process it yet. And I'm saying this from my own experience, with someone who had very, it was called, what do they call it? Like smiling depression, like where like everything like looks okay, but like deep down you're like dead inside kind of thing, like just because you can function. And it was just like, and I feel it, like the times where I just feel like not where I want it, it's because my body, like my emotions, it's telling me like there's something needs to shift, right? And you mentioned that like when you had that internal like this emotion and you just started, it was really the universe kind of like pulling you to a different way. And I mean, now you have this, you're traveling all over the world teaching Wanjing. How has this method, I know it changes the lives of others, but how has it really transformed yours?
I think that what our challenges that we're given in life is the medicine for others. And for me, my biggest challenge in life was worthiness.
Mm,
Ever since a young age of like, especially coming from a Chinese background of like the mom, my parents always saying, "Oh, you can do better. Well, your cousin got straight A's. Why can't you get straight A's?" And like this continuous feeling of feeling
yeah.
unworthy to have a lot of money because of all these scarcity codes that were ingrained in me as a child of, oh, we can't afford this and this is too much and that's just too expensive. And so I had to climb this mountain of unworthiness in so many different aspects of my life that came, whether that's from the clothing I wore to the foods I picked to the places that I went to the boyfriends that I had that were toxic and terrible, right? Into a new place of feeling worthy. And so when all of this happened, this second depression came through, it hit the hardest because it was my worthiness of like having a purpose. All
Mm,
of us want to have a purpose. All of us want to share our medicine, whether that's art or tech or, books or music. We all want to feel like people want it and need it and love it. And when I kept hearing no from yoga, no, 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 even as a couldn't even get a job as a waitress. I was literally like, seriously, the world clearly doesn't need me. And that
mhm.
was the deepest wound. That was the hardest one to swallow. Uh,
Yeah.
well, what's my point then? Like
Yeah.
I don't need to exist. What is it? So after that happened, and then I was like, I literally was at the point of I just don't give a rat's ass about what anyone thinks. I guess I'm just gonna go broke and do these somatic movements at the beach. The moment where I was like, well, whatever, that's when that the universe responded because I was open to something besides yoga because I wasn't attached to that thing anymore, right? And because I was open, the universe was able to reflect back to me, hey, here's a thing. This could be a thing. And at first I was always like, am I worthy of it? I'm not a trained dancer. I've never taken a dance class in my life. I've never taken a qigong or martial arts class in my life. And I only know yoga. Like, what are my qualifications to be teaching this thing that I don't even know what I'm teaching?
Channeling the goddess through my body. That's yeah, I am just a conduit, instrument, the goddess. But it's true.
Yeah, it was just really funny having, when people are like, well, how did you develop it? And I just go, it just came to me through me. It moved me. I'm sorry, I don't have like a qualification. I don't have a certificate. I don't have like I don't have lessons. I don't have any of this. And to still have people coming to me and saying, I want to learn, that looks amazing, has definitely transformed my core wound of unworthiness and realizing that we all have such special gifts, no matter how silly or weird or unique they are. They're your gifts. That's your your code, your essence. And so that has really helped me transform how I view myself and how I view the potential in others.
Yeah. I think oftentimes we forget that through the universe, rejection is redirection, and this is something I've had to remind myself too, because I've reached, in the last few years, it's really been just the goddess, like, just telling me to, like, surrender. Like, literally, that's been the message, just surrender and let go. Because I prided myself before in being like a master manifester because it's true. Like, I put my mind to it, I get it, I got it, and I realized it's not actually what I really want. Like I I got engaged, got married, on paper everything looked great, and then I ended up just feeling like something was just still missing. And my ex-husband is amazing. Like, I give him so much love. We had a conscious uncoupling. And then, like, my whole world kind of like I had to, like, dismantle my business, like how I what the identity of, like, this boss babe type thing, and like the relationship, all of this stuff, to really, like, let go. And this has happened before in my life, and I'm like, "Again? I have to, like, burn everything, like, again?" But it's just like this surrender, and it's like the non-attachment, and just leaning into the intuition and to the mystery, it's really like the mystery path to, like, what, like, feels good, and, like, having that come through. That, I mean, it was never in my bingo cards to be here where I am in Panama City, like, with my partner doing, like, this work that's more with not just a goddess, but really in touch with, like, embodiment and sensuality and sexuality. But it just makes sense. Like, now that I see in hindsight, I'm like, "Oh, yeah, meant to it was meant to be led here." And I love that you said, like, when you drop the attachments, right, of, like, the yoga and all these things, I think that's where the magic is. And it's so beautiful. I mean, this season is called Goddess Rebirth, and really defining what it means. I see a lot about goddess energy, divine feminine energy, and it's usually still very one or the other. And I think what a lot of people who are new to, like, this concept don't realize is that it's actually all. It's everything. It's the destruction and the rebirth. It's the dark and the light and the nuance in between, and it is like the dance. And I love that. I feel like your guanjing method, when I see you move, is just a perfect depiction of, like, the dance of life when you surrender to the mystery. Are you ready to thrive, not just survive, in your life, leadership, or career? At Thriver Lifestyle, we believe thriving isn't just about success. It's about alignment, vitality, and creating a lasting impact. For women leaders, our coaching programs are designed for high-achieving, busy women who are ready to reclaim their power. If you're feeling burnt out or disconnected, we guide you to transform stress into flow and burnout into balance. Through somatic practices, breath work, and mindfulness, we empower you to lead with authenticity, confidence, and vitality. For corporations, Thriver Lifestyle helps forward-thinking organizations cultivate thriving workplace cultures. We created customized wellness programs that foster employee well-being, build resilience, and improve morale, unlocking the full potential of your team and company. Whether you're an individual ready to transform or an organization ready to evolve, Thriver Lifestyle is here to help you thrive. Visit thriverlifestyle.com today to learn more and schedule a consultation. Because thriving is more than just a goal, it's a way of life.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, if you look at it from a Chinese medicine perspective, right? Yin is the feminine, it's the darkness, it's the stillness. Um, and you're right with the reflections of the feminine. Like, we are the Kali, the destroyer. We can think of that in Egypt goddess terms as Sekhmet, but Sekhmet transforms into Hathor, the goddess of love. And that transformation comes through Isis. And so, as women, we are such shapeshifters naturally. You take any woman and you add movement to her and you accentuate her hair and you give her a beautiful dress and she can transform into something. Or if you take her and you cover her in like a kimono and robe, she becomes something different. Like it's so beautiful the way that we can transform as women into these different archetypes, and we can embody different archetypes through not only the clothing we wear, but also the energy that we're feeling. Like, what is it that
Mhm.
we are wanting to transform? And allowing ourselves to be part of that transformation consciously rather than just unconsciously, and letting challenges and triggers always give you like the long road to that transformation, but just being like, wait, hold on a second, let's look at the signs, let's look at the messages, let's feel my body. I think one of the biggest things for me is feeling my body and where something isn't feeling good. Like,
Mhm.
for example, if it was time for me to leave a relationship, my womb and my pelvis was literally locking up, like saying no to some person. I was,
Mhm.
I would have clenched jaw. There's all these signs where
Yeah.
we're like, oh, I don't know, let me just take some pain medication, or clearly I'm just like stressed out, and just waving that message aside rather than being like, what is my body telling me right now?
Yeah.
These are so intelligent. And that's why Guanjing has been so transformational, not just to myself, but for other people, because we're instead of running away from it, we're
Mhm.
taking it, breathing into it, and saying it's okay to let it go. It's okay for the message to come up. It's okay to release and move it out of us rather than holding on, ignoring it, looking the other way.
Yeah, and I think that's why I love tantra so much, and why I've just really dove deeper into it is because that it embraces like even the messiness, the ugliness, the shadows, whatever it is that we hold so much shame and guilt over is still part of our humanity and is divine. And to sit with it instead of ignoring it, to actually feel it instead of like, no, let's just feel joy, and which is great, like love and light, but like that spiritually bypasses it, right? Instead of actually moving through it. And I think in this next phase, really, I think of spirituality and where it's going. I've been on this journey for like over a decade. And when I first started, I felt like there was no one talking about it. like, and I would like be the weird one. And now it feels good that so many people are like openly having conversations. And I think the next phase is really like, and I see it like people are craving more authenticity. Like people want to know that you are actually embodied in what you do. You don't just like say it and have like the look, you're supposed to look this way, but actually like you're living what you're teaching. And I think I go back to like when I see your movement, it's on my like I want to do one of your I was actually thinking, I was telling my partner that I would love to like learn that method and like be a facilitator, but I promise myself that I'm someone that like always wants to learn, but I have all these other things. I'm like I've actually just let go of like trying to do too much because I'm in this stage of like less is more in my life. But it's there. It's in the back of my head. um because I think it is so beautiful, like that movement, that embodiness. Yeah.
True. Yeah, it's important I think we're in an age right now where everyone's just distracted. There's just all this stuff on Instagram. There's all these TikToks that like attention is fleeting, and there's something really beautiful about the way that the other generations, the older generations have carried their attention span and their intention towards something. Yeah, less is definitely more. And this movement method has so many layers to it that the students who actually really immerse themselves in it see the true transformation, because there's a lot of layers. Like first there's the breath, knowing how to fully and deeply breathe properly, and where we're breathing in the body,
Yeah.
it manipulates where energy goes. Then it's the posture, the structure of the movement, how to rotate the pelvis properly, how to release the neck, because I call these the energetic kinks that lock up our full potential of energy flow, is in the way we hold our bodies. So the biggest thing you see nowadays is like this kind of action from the phone, and the rounding of the shoulders and the
Mhm.
pelvis is hunched over. And so we repattern that. And then comes the visualization, which is where you're directing your mind. What are you visualizing? And all of the basic forms, I call them, all based on spiraling circular shapes. And each basic form has a specific visualization of where the energy is going. And so a lot of it's very beautiful. It's like the lotus in the center of the heart and lifting it up and having this like lotus open, and holding it. Um,
Mhm.
and so there's all these layers to finally, when you get into the flow, you're like, whoa, this is absolutely amazing. And I've noticed some huge shifts in people's lives. I had a man actually have advanced arthritis, and he was told by a doctor that he wouldn't be able to walk. And he worked on with me a one-on-one, and now he's completing a triathlon. And he said the biggest thing was Guanjing, and he's tried Tai Chi and yoga and all this stuff, but it wasn't the same as somatically, visually moving things. And so, yeah, our intentions and attention is very, very powerful.
Yeah, and I think that is where everything is stored is in the body, and it links, I think, to goddess work, and the divine feminine is more in the body. It's body based. Feel a lot of the like sit in stillness, which is, I mean, I got certified in pranayama and meditation like 8 years ago, and it was very like sit in stillness, which I did. But then there was still a part of me, I was going through my healing, that what landed for me the most was somatic practices, was actually moving through like whatever energy was stored instead of like sitting in stillness with it. It still felt so like that to me felt just so much more powerful, and to like intuitively move and then find out later, oh, that's linked to this, and I'm like, oh, it just made my body just knew to like move and undulate in that way to like release that energy. And it tends to be more in like spiral movements, and when we know sacred geometry and, spirals and torus fields, we're like, oh, okay, it does totally make sense. Like when we get in touch with our body and really know and kind of move with that flow of consciousness.
Yeah, and it's the dance between the poles. Stillness is neither good or bad. Consistent is neither good or bad. It's just
Mhm.
not getting stuck in a certain place, because continuously moving and fidgeting and having to always do something is a nervous system response, which probably could be doctored with more stillness, right? And then people who are more lethargic could probably be doctored with more movement. So learning to dance between the poles to find balance, because when we're balanced, we are our most lovable, we're our most powerful, we are most capable when
Yeah.
we're balanced, right? And so knowing when you're out of balance, and your body's going to for sure respond to that. And to get back to some more discussions about the goddess talk, I travel all over the world. I go to Egypt, to Glastonbury, so many different sacred sites. And it's very interesting how they suppress the feminine out there.
Mhm.
Very, very much so. Even in places like Glastonbury, where you're not allowed to sit in circle, you're not allowed to dance, you're not allowed to sing, you're not allowed to meditate,
Mhm.
which really surprised me, because I was like, well, this is England. Like, really, we can't sit in a circle and hold hands. They will literally kick you out of the abbey and of the chalice wells. And when I'm in Egypt, if you go into a temple space, if you even look like you're meditating, they'll ask you to leave. They'll ask you to move. Meanwhile, people are randomly taking dumps on in the corner in this holy sacred space, and they're not saying anything about that, which is wild to me. There's just like trash and all this stuff. And of course, when you get a private permission, which is what we do a lot, that's when you're allowed to do stuff, but only when no one else is there. Only when officers are looking at you. And so it's very interesting how the world very much is still intimidated by feminine energy, because it is so potent, because it is so powerful and transformative. And
I think it's also because it's uncontrollable,
yeah,
and you can't contain it. It can't be defined as just one way. It's not linear. So, and people fear the unknown, and the goddess is the void. It's the dark. So, like to people who are like, oh, I don't know, I don't know. That's scary, and they do want to suppress it because it is this like it really is just a control thing, right? You want to like control it, look a certain way. This is exactly what I mean, I could go down the rabbit hole of like patriarchal monotheistic religions, how, they, because before that, God was a woman, like in go far back besides like what I think it was 5,000 years where they really like had that shift. The rest of existence, humanity worship God as a woman. You
Mhm.
know, it's in everything. When you think of like even just now, that's why sometimes I'm like, that's just what make logical sense. When you think of like who creates and births, it's women, and yet we have a sky daddy like that. Just like what?
No, it's interesting. Actually, when I was in Turkey and my friend had insisted, I was with a guy friend, and he's like, "Oh, let's go to the mosque," you know? And he goes, "But you can't, you have to be covered. You have to be covered." And I was like, "Okay, I'll be covered." And so I wore a big long kimono. He's like, "Oh, but you can't be too flashy. You can't have patterns." And I was like, "Okay, I'm sorry. I have this beautiful crane kimono. Then I had this like really heavy white thing." And he's like, "No, wear the white thing. You know, be as plain as possible." I'm like, "Okay." So I wear the white thing. We get there, have to have my hair covered, have to have my face covered. So then I wear this white scarf. I'm completely covered head to toe. And it was so interesting feeling invisible because it wasn't by choice. You know, I could definitely disappear into the crowd if I wanted to, but that would be my choice. But to be invisible, not by my choice, was very draining. And it made me feel when was actually in that space, I got started getting so dizzy. Started getting so tired, and it's not like me at all. Like I never take naps. I'm always full energy, and then I have deep sleep at night. And I was in that space and I was getting dizzy. I couldn't sit up straight to the point where I was like sitting down on the floor, and then I got yelled at for like squatting on the floor. So I had to get up, and I looked at him and I was like, I got to get out of here. So I left, and the closest like patch of grass was right in front, and I passed out. I fell asleep for 45 minutes,
Mhm.
having complete energy drain. He was frantically looking for me, like, where are you calling me? And I wake up and I'm like, that energy sucked that my life force out of me. That like,
Mhm.
because of the generational oppression of women, the
Mhm.
generational oppression of their voices, the control over who they become, what they can learn, you know, what jobs they can be in. Like that whole place was so dense. And
Mhm.
it pains me that this is an issue now, even in this day and age. I can't believe that this is still an issue.
Mhm. You know, I grew up I'm Filipino, so my family is Catholic. I went to like Catholic school my whole life, was like in the church, a lector, but it always felt also so heavy to me. And they didn't like the little girl asking too many questions that like they didn't have answers to. Cause I would be like, but that doesn't make sense. You said, and they're like, this is just how it is. And that used to like irritate me. I'm like, what do you mean? Like, like, can you explain? I was always that. They're like, this is just how it is. Like, and that always, like, drove me crazy. But in places like that, yeah, because it is very, like, controlled, and we go back to, we're talking about the goddess, that's why, like, it's because it's true if you are able to really fully express that, it's uncontainable, it's uncontrolled, and I think that scares a lot of people. I think it also scares women. I know a lot of women who, like, mute down their energy and their power, and they stay small out of fear to protect themselves.
Yeah, it's really true. And I think my biggest wish for all those out there is to feel like they are able to express themselves unapologetically to the world through their energy and through movement. And so maybe it is rage, maybe it is something a little quote unquote unhealthy, like anger, right? Move with it, dance with it, like connect and have a conversation with movement, with your breath through it. And that's what Guanjing teaches us is to how to move that energy around. And I have my free link to my class in my bio, but like have the opportunity to connect with ourselves in that way
Yeah.
rather than just be scared and run away, right? Because again, we're turning away, we're turning our backs to ourselves as women when we do that. And even men have a feminine
Mhm.
energy too.
Absolutely, yeah.
They turn their backs to it, results in having an unhealthy relationship with other feminine partner, whether that's a partner, a mother, a daughter. We need to look at the feminine within ourselves, and as women, we naturally have masculine energies. It's the balance of yin and yang.
Yeah. So, what do you have in store for I mean, this is a big year, 2025, with just everything that's going on. What do you have going on with Guanjing method? I did see some like really cool retreats. You had one in Mongolia, Egypt, what is in store for you for this year?
Yeah, there's a lot happening. Uh,
Mhm.
about to, I don't know when this is airing particularly, but I have a 7-week training coming up in February, and also the abundance ritual that celebrates the year of the yin wood snake that goes along with the calendar. So we'll start on January
I
29th.
actually signed up for that because I love anything snake, and
Yeah.
I've been going to my Chinese astrologer for like 8 years. I love it. I'm very into snakes. I have like a snake tattoo because in Filipino culture, snakes represent ancestor protection and guidance. So like I'm all about, like, I love snakes. I've always loved snakes.
Oh, then you're gonna love this class because it's all about that serpentine energy, moving slow, feeling into our shell, the egg, and then like breaking out of that and really going beautifully slow and grounded with our movements. And then after that, I have a Bali Still Waters retreat, which I'm super excited about. That's at the end of March. And so that's going to be coinciding with the national holiday of Bali, which is Nyepi, the ultimate day of silence. I don't know if you've ever been to Bali, but
Mhm.
that day is, have you been there during that day?
No, no. I've been to Bali 3 times, but I haven't been on that day. I actually got engaged in Bali like years ago with my ex-husband.
Oh wow. Yeah, that day is very special. So the Balinese believe that the gods want to destroy us because as humanity, we are just like terrible people. So what they do is they spend months building these paper mache demons and devils and all sorts of crazy creatures that they go around parading through the streets, and there's a wild celebration at night to show the gods that we're already getting punished. And so the next day is the day of silence. Like, oh, look, they're all gone. Like all the people are gone. So there's literally the airport closes. They shut off the electricity. There's no internet. No one's allowed on the street. If you're on the street, it's a huge fine. It's a day of fasting, rest, and silence. So we're having the end day of that retreat be that day where we're just in meditation, in Guanjing movement and silence together. So that's going to be really special. And then I have Egypt coming up 11/11. Mongolia is in October. We're going on horseback rides through the Altai Mountains in Mongolia and working with the golden eagle hunters. So we'll each have a
All
golden.
that. I'm like, oh my God, that sounds so amazing.
Yeah, I have to prepare for it. I'm like, it's a more rugged trip because you are in the mountains. This is
Yeah.
golden eagles. You're going to be on horseback. I'm really excited about that one. And then Peru's coming up as well. We'll be doing the new moon equinox in, I forget what specific date it is, but that's coming up mid-September.
Mhm.
And yeah, that's it for 2025 so far. Oh, as well as my teacher training. That's in July. And I'm really excited about that. I just finished hosting my first teacher training this year, and we celebrated with a retreat I just got back from in Mexico. And it was so transformative. I mean, we had the best time. It was months of us training together, talking about Chinese medicine, about the body, about breath, about building how to build a business with it. And so, yeah, that retreat was just absolutely magical. So we're doing that again, and it begins end of July.
I love it. Yeah, so many things happening. How can someone find more information about you? For those who are interested in going to your retreats or learning more about your method. Sisters, are you ready to reclaim your wild, sacred feminine power? Join us for Savage Feminine Reclamation, an intimate, luxurious, and transformative retreat happening September 22 to 27, 2025 in Tulum, Mexico. This isn't just a retreat. It's a sacred 5-day journey into the heart of your divine feminine essence. Through powerful embodiment practices, rituals, and deep connections with nature, you'll shed old layers, awaken your inner goddess, and step into your fullest power, while also enjoying time to explore Tulum's famous cenotes and white sand beaches. Space is extremely limited to ensure a deeply personalized and transformative experience. Don't wait, there's only 10 spots available. Secure your spot now and give yourself the reclamation your soul has been craving. Visit thriverlifestyle.com to learn more and reserve your place today. This is your time. Answer your soul's call to reclaim your savage feminine power.
Yeah, I think the easiest way is probably follow me on Instagram. It's gwangingmethod.com. And then you can also follow my personal account, One with Soul, which has more of my personal story and things that I'm up to. And then there's also the link tree that also has the links to all the offerings I have, as well as some free stuff like the free energy class, as well as a free intro movement class and the YouTube videos, which are all free. And yeah, there's also just gwangingmethod.com.
I love it. And we're including all of this in the show notes. So thank you so much for being here, for sharing your story, your method. And I love to ask all of, the guests that come to my podcast, last question before they head off. So in your in your eyes, what does it mean to live a thriver lifestyle?
In my opinion, it is the feeling of freedom, of making your choices that are best for your soul's essence to thrive. So whether that is going on an epic ski trip, or whether that is being in the tropical island, or wherever it is, knowing where you and your soul can thrive and grow and flourish, there's no limits to that. And so that's what I would think a thriver life is.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you so much again. And thank you everyone for watching and listening to this, depending on if you're watching on YouTube or on Spotify. And we appreciate you so much. Thank you, Ting Ting, for being on the show.
Much.
Yay. Thank you for listening or watching the Thriver Lifestyle Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to stay inspired with new conversations each week. Your support means the world. Please share this episode with your community, whether it's your team at work or closest friends. Together, we can spread the message of embodied leadership, holistic wellness, and thriving as a collective. Follow me on social media for more insights and behind-the-scenes content. And if something resonated with you today, please leave a podcast review. It helps us get our message to even more people all around the world. Until next time, remember, you are powerful, you are divine, and you are meant to thrive. See you in the next episode.